What is up, good people on a Monday? What's going on? It's your man Tony Wiggins with Locked On Jaguars. Good spirited game yesterday for a while, but the Jags eventually fall 31-19 to the Arizona Cardinals in a fun game for a little bit because the Jaguars showed a lot of life. I'm going to give you the ins and outs of the game, tell you the turning points, tell you where there are teachable moments in those turning points, and the little bit of a positive outlook moving forward. And I'll talk about those things in Monday's edition of Locked On Jaguars next.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's good, man? What's good, good people? What's going on today here on Locked On Jaguars? And first and foremost, I want to thank you for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Jaguars podcast. Every single day, free on all platforms. Your first listen is very, very important for us, and we thank you for being here. We'll just get right to it. I picked the Jaguars to upset the Arizona Cardinals in Friday's podcast. Didn't quite go that way, right? I was looking like Confucius there for a minute. I was looking like a genius. But after a spirited effort, a wild first half, the way that it ended in the first half, a remarkable play by Jamal Agnew. The Jaguars go into the locker room, of course, leading 13-7. Eventually got up to a 19-7 lead, and then the wheels came off for various reasons, and we're going to discuss those various reasons today. Let's just get right to it, man. Spirited play, exciting crowd. I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. There are a lot of people in the fan base who basically said that the Jaguars were going to get whipsawed and whitewashed and blown out and all of this stuff. And I kind of went the other way because this is the NFL. And I took a cue from other people when you know, they're talking about how like Vic Fangio, when the comment he made about Urban Meyer last week, when Fangio, the Denver Broncos coach, was discussing that this is the NFL and anybody can get you. And I remember, I think it was Thursday or Friday of last week, I said, well, why can't we be anybody? So I knew that there were some matchup things that we talked about in our crossover show with Alex Clancy and Bo Brock of Locked On Arizona Cardinals, that there were some things that the Jaguars did well that were going to give them a shot to hang into the game, at least for a while, with the Arizona Cardinals. First and foremost, one of the things that I had discussed last week was rushing up the middle, getting pressure up the middle to knock Arizona quarterback Kyler Murray, to sort of knock him off of his square a little bit and not just give him a smorgasbord or a buffet of options, force him to do one thing. And you know, it's very difficult when you have a great player like that because, you know, it's not like you're going to force him to do something that he can't do. The kid can pretty much do everything, but you just don't want to give him the full Monty. You don't want to give him everything. You know, you want to take some things away from him. And I thought for the most part, the Jaguars took away his ability to make a big play yesterday. And Arizona came out, go down the field, score a touchdown. Jaguars come back, go down the field, score a touchdown. And then it looks like the Jaguars actually have, a shot to really be in this thing. But it just didn't work out that way. Fast start for the Jags again, and now they fall to 0-3, and they get ready for a game against Cincinnati on national TV on Thursday, which is, was going to happen on a short week. So this is another transition and another thing that they have to get used to. How do you prepare after an emotional game yesterday? How do you get that thing turned around and go on the road, 3 days later? Because I think they'll probably leave Wednesday. If they may leave Thursday, I don't know. But in any event, you got to tool up and go back and get back on the horse. So a lot to talk about when it comes to that. One of the things is the timing of the play calls. The Jaguars were running the ball really good yesterday, as evidenced, and they got 159 yards rushing total, 88 of which came from James Robinson. They were getting chunk yards. They were getting 6, 7 yards a carry at one point, and it looked like they were starting to really, really dominate the game. And then this play call happened that I ended up tweeting about for 2 hours last night. The play call, of course, is the called flea flicker from deep in their own territory that ended up being a pick six. So there were a lot of folks that chimed in on that. So I'm going to get to the call. I'm going to get to why I've chosen to focus on certain areas. So to break this down into layers, first and foremost, some folks that thought they were going to get blown out are now angry that they were close and gave the game away. So they try to, it's almost as if folks try to make their thinking the coach's thinking. And I'm going to tell you what I think the coaches were thinking. That in 2 games, they haven't been able to manufacture offense. They haven't been able to get big plays. So to me, they feel like they have to do things beyond the X's and O's. And folks that think that the Jaguars are a bad team, you can't call a flea flicker. No, when you're a bad team, you have to call stuff like that. When you're a bad team, if you don't try to do something beyond the X's and O's and some extra stuff, you're going to get beat and you're just going to be a sitting duck. You have to try to be aggressive. So I had no problem with the play call. There are other people that say you don't call it from that point. That's true in a certain case, but no one ever explained that why you don't call a flea flicker from deep in your own territory. There's nothing to do with the fact that it's a flea flicker. It's just that you never call something that requires multiple people handing the ball off to other people deep into your territory, because if something goes wrong, then the team is already in scoring territory. That's why. But that wasn't an issue on that case. In the case of this play, because the pitch was fine. They executed the pitch fine. That had nothing to do with it. So they took that risk and they got beyond that. That had nothing to do with why the play didn't work. And I've seen flea flickers run from all over the field, by the way. But most of the time, teams don't like doing risky stuff in their own territory. That's why teams don't go for it in their own territory very much, because the risk doesn't, the risk is far greater than the reward in that case. Here's the problem. Andrew Norwell is a veteran, and this is something else that somebody said. I'm only doing this because I'm trying to shape this for you as to why I so vehemently stood tall on this subject. You say we're a young team. You don't do that when you're a young team. You don't do that when you're the Jaguars. But coming into the game, Andrew Norwell, the left guard, was the highest rated offensive line based on the way he's played. He's played better than anybody on the offensive line all year. And he's the one that screwed up. Trevor made a bad pass because you should have just eaten it or just gotten it out and tried to get it out of bounds. But he tried to make a play, boom, got picked off, ran back for a pick six. And I don't care where they would have done that from. They could have done that on the other team's 40-yard line. That was going to be a pick six regardless. So that's why I say the position that the Jaguars were in, it didn't even matter at that point. But let me tell you why I think it's important that we understand that we have to keep the main thing the main thing. The bottom line is, if you're a football team, you expect certain guys to be able to do certain things and not make certain types of mistakes. If you go back and watch the play, the Jaguars have been running the ball well. And there are people that say, well, why don't you just keep running until they stop it? Because if you keep running until they stop it, guess what? Then they figured it out. But if they think you're going to run it, see, part of football too is tricking people. And they tricked them. Buda Baker did not bite on the initial handoff. He really, really bit when he saw Carlos Hyde with that ball running to his right. DJ Chark was open by 10 yards. You kick it back to Trevor. If he just has a half of the time that it would have taken him to just cock the ball and throw it down the field, DJ Chark scores a touchdown, and he's still running right now to Daytona Beach. The reason why he didn't have the time was because Andrew Norwell, your high-priced left guard, your veteran, one of your leaders on the team, not only did he whiff on the block, he didn't touch Watt. and he did a 360 pirouette like a figure skater in the hole. Watt basically came onto a Hall of Famer. Basically, all he had to do was just stand there and get in his way. You didn't have to block him. You didn't have to dominate him. You could have gotten pancaked. But if he had offered any resistance, it's a touchdown. From a team that feels that they have to help their young quarterback by manufacturing the ability to make big plays. And if you go back to the offseason, the reason why they drafted Travis Etienne, it was because they said they lacked big plays. And so far this year, they've lacked big plays when the game was still in reach. They had 3 plays over 20 yards yesterday. One was a 25-yard touchdown to DJ Chark. Another was a 20-yard, I think it was sort of a catch and run to Laviska Shenault. And the other was, I think, a 20-yard run by James Robinson. That's it. And I said that's it with DASSIT. That's it. Nothing else. I feel like they thought they had the run going and they had to help manufacture some points. If you don't think I'm telling the truth about that, they scored 14 yesterday, right? Without, not even 14 when you think about the guy missing kicks. They scored 13 without the kickoff return. Last week against Denver, they scored sort of almost an equal amount with another kickoff return. Take the kickoff returns out, they have not scored points. This team needs help doing that. I don't have a problem with the call. I don't necessarily think it was a great call, but here's what I do know. I got a bigger problem with the fact that one of your veteran players can't even halfway do his job good enough in that situation. And he knows how important, he knows what the call is. He knows how important it is that someone doesn't run free and he doesn't make the play. So I guess for me, it's what do I choose to be angry at? Or what do I choose to be critical of? I choose to be critical of somebody not doing their job as opposed to second guessing a coaching staff that feels like they need to help their players by manufacturing and doing some trickery to help them score points. If you don't think they need trickery, then why haven't they scored more points? I'll wait. This isn't Gardner Minshew back there. This is Trevor Lawrence. You're going to put that ball in that kid's hand and then pressure bust pipes, man. You want to actually see who can do what under certain circumstances. This is actually something that you kind of need to see. You kind of need to see who can get what done under certain circumstances. And you won't be able to get that done and you won't be able to see that until you put them in those circumstances. We'll talk more about that and specifically about what was actually good yesterday and the impact that has moving forward. We're going to talk about some more positives, and we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars after I tell you about this, Jaguar fans. I have an incredible app. Everyone who buys gas needs to know about it. It's called Get Upside. I have listeners that are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas. Every time they fill up, just download the free Get Upside app on the App Store or Google Play right now. Do it right now. Use the promo code TOUCHDOWN and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back, man, on gas. Don't you understand? This is a really, really good deal for you on this app. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download the app for free and use the promo code TOUCHDOWN. That's it. To get up to 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 or $300 a month in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account. You can cash out at any time to your bank account. You can use PayPal or an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use the promo code TOUCHDOWN to get up to 50 cent per gallon cash back on your first tank. That's Touchdown. Download the app right now, man. Get Upside. One word, Get Upside, and start saving on your gas. Bet Online is back and in full effect, and with all of these games going down to the wire, man, I know some point spreads were pushed this way. Some things were won that way, and hopefully you had a nice little parlay ticket and caught you some cash because as always, Bet Online is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Now, With a new uploaded site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests are at betonline.ag as it continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device right now today to sign up, and you'll get a 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use the promo code Locked On. From football, basketball, UFC was hot this weekend. There's some boxing matches coming up, some upsets in that sport. You got to take advantage of everything and all the amazing offers available to you here in 2021. BetOnline is your fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. Your online sportsbook experts is BetOnline, and that promo code is Locked On. Positives here on a Monday after a 31-19 loss in Arizona. The positives is it seems like Urban was right when he says that he trusts his locker room. Urban Meyer earlier this week, and I told you guys at his presser when I saw it, I liked his body language. It wasn't a woe is me mentality. It wasn't this mentality of, well, I'm in over my head, or he said, we're going to keep fighting. And they came out yesterday, man, and really, really satisfied the crowd that was there. And the crowd kind of spilled in slow because one of the bridges here was inoperative, a couple of hours before the game. And that's one of the main bridges people use to get to the game. So it took a while for everybody to file in. But once everyone got into the game, a very, very spirited effort. And you see the fans here really want this team to do well. And they aren't going to give up on them, no matter how angry they get, no matter how the Jaguars could look totally incompetent one week and the fans will go off and it'll sound like it's just this total revolt going on. And then all of a sudden, when those gates open up, the very next time the Jaguars play at home, guess who's right there with their teal and black cheering? The fans, because this is what they're used to doing here. Urban was right in the offseason. He told the players, if we start to win here, the roof will blow off of this place. And he's right, because the roof almost blows off the place now, and they don't win very many games. So I do think the positives moving forward is you see that mentally the guys haven't checked out, and you see that there's a lot of effort. And what you also see is you see a together locker room. Now, you can all be together and not be good, and that's not necessarily a good thing, of course, but they're still together. Another positive, I think Jamal Agnew is headed to be not just a Pro Bowler, but an All-Pro. You want to look at free agency in the draft and say, okay, what did we do and who did we get? You want it probably to be a guy who has a bigger impact on the football team than a dude who just doesn't touch the ball as much, because just honestly, if he touching the ball in kickoffs a lot, that means the other team scored, or it's just the beginning of the game or the beginning of the half. But you see why they signed him. I thought for a minute that he was just a guy, but it's obvious that he has a knack for doing things. And on a good team, he's a dude that really can make a difference from a team being just a good team to a great team. So, and really his effort and the way that he goes about his business, from what I hear, he's a super professional guy and he's a hard worker. So that stuff can be contagious. It's just good for them to get good news in free agency, right? Another positive for the game, the Jaguars really can, when they batten down, they can actually stop the run. And this is a problem. If you go back to 2018, 2019, this team was getting absolutely, and even last year, they were getting gashed in the running game. They've improved that area. And I thought the Mike linebacker Wilson probably had a really good game. He had a dumb penalty earlier in the game. I thought he had a really, really good game for Jacksonville yesterday. Okay, y'all got me. I'm going to give a positive. The offensive line. The offensive line was a positive yesterday. They did what they were actually built to do, and that is they're big and they're physical. I always have a problem and struggle with their stiffness and their athleticism and pass protection, but they're big and they're physical. And they were built to run the football, which bewilders you because the Jaguars came out early in the season, especially in game one, and they didn't want to run the ball. And I think that's what kind of ticked the fans off yesterday, is the fact that the Jaguars stopped running the ball when they finally had some success doing it. I do believe the trick play was just the one we talked about in the first segment, the flea flicker, was just to manufacture points, flip field position, get a good score, because you saw Arizona was starting to come alive a little bit offensively. And then eventually, if they could do that and hold Arizona on defense, they would go back to the run to close the game. I thought that was that one shot that they were trying to take, and it backfired, and it ended up being a pick six. But kudos to the offensive line. They played better yesterday. They accepted the challenge. And that's what I've always said about an offensive line. They can't just be okay. They have to be able to dominate a game when they need to dominate a game. And for about a quarter and a half on Sunday, that's exactly what they did. So while I criticize sometimes, you have to man up and give credit where credit is due. So that's another positive. Other things that are positives. I actually thought the guys competed and tackled well in space yesterday. And that's something that, I said that they had to do. You have to be able, teams are going to catch the ball, but you have to make sure when they catch the ball, you stop them right there dead in their tracks. And I thought the Jags did that for the most part yesterday. It wasn't easy for Arizona, even though they scored 31 points, 24 offensively, and Kyler Murray was 28 out of 34 for over 300 yards. You still did not see those huge plays that you thought may happen that could have possibly derailed the Jaguars yesterday. But a loss is a loss. It's 31-19. There are no moral victories. But there are some takeaways and some things that we can look forward to in the future. And those are the things that I will really want to discuss in segment 3, because they're going to go on a short week up to Cincinnati and play a Bengals team that is 2-1 and looks like they're getting some confidence. Are there any similarities between the Bengals last year and the Jaguars this year, and any similarities between what you're seeing from the Bengals this year and what the Jaguars may be a year from now? I'll tell you in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars, after I let you know about Directv Stream, man. If this doesn't sound familiar to you, I don't know what to tell you. You have all of these multiple devices and different ways that you look at football and movies and everything else, and all of these streaming services that pull money out of your bank unbeknownst to you at different times of the month. You have other people's passwords, and sometimes when you log out, you have to log back in, and you can't find that person to log in. Well, I want you to know this. There's a simple way to get all that entertainment without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called Directv Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and passwords and finding out when somebody's going to pay their bills, so you can get your entertainment. You can have it yourself, right? You got to get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with Directv Stream. You can learn more at directv.com. That's directv.com. Compatible devices required. Content varies by package. And listen to this, there is no annual contract. So go to directv.com and find out about Directv Stream. And Built Bar. Man, I got something in the mail the other day from Built Bar. It's that cookie dough chunk specialty bar. I'm going to try it out, and I'm going to cheat on my favorite Built Bar, of course, which is the salted caramel. But I told you, for a limited time only, sometimes they have an occasional special flavor, and I got mine in the mail. And you can get yours too if you go to BuiltBar.com and hit the promo code LOCK15. You're going to get 15% off of your first order. Now, if you're worried about your weight, which I always am, the macros in this are very, very good. Between 130 and 180 calories per bar, just 4 or 5 grams of sugar, 4 or 5 grams of net carbs, and a very, very low calorie count, so you don't have to worry about that. It tastes good, though. It tastes like you're eating something you ain't supposed to have no business eating, but it's not true. Built Bars are very, very good for you. Find out how good they are by going to BuiltBar.com and use the promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off of your first order. All right, let's get to the order of business of talking about what are the takeaways and what are the positives that the Jaguars can use moving forward. Now they know they can compete. They weren't real competitive in the first 2 games against 2 sort of mediocre teams. So most people sort of assume that, well, when they really play a team that's 2-0 and explosive, and that are one of these teams that people think are going to go to the playoffs with a great quarterback, they're really going to struggle, because they played just okay quarterbacks the first 2 weeks, and they didn't play really well. Well, that wasn't necessarily true. The Jaguars held their own, and they showed themselves to be a formidable NFL team that teams are going to have to come out and deal with from a physical perspective. They showed a lot of improvement yesterday. Now, I know for you guys, that doesn't mean a hill of beans because you actually want to see a win. Can they get a win Thursday? We'll obviously be going over this all week. We'll have a crossover episode later on the week with Locked On Bengals, where we'll really talk about we'll break down the X's and O's and ways that the Jaguars will have a chance to come out victorious. But I'll tell you this, I'm going to give them more and more of a chance every week to be competitive and to be in games. It's a chance for you to see progress. And so there were a lot of folks that were angry, not that the Jaguars started out 0-2, but that it just appeared to be some incompetence and guys weren't on the same page. You're starting to see that area shrink up a little bit. From when they came out of training camp, it looked like a whole new organization, guys that weren't on the same page. And by guys, I don't even mean players, I mean coaches. Well, now it seems like things sort of got a little bit normal yesterday. And, I think it starts with running the football. I really do think, and as much as we talk about that and sound like coaches and coach speak and with these wide open offenses around the league, I think you have to know who you are. And when you know who you are, you have to do the things that make you who you are. And I think the Jaguars right now have an offensive line that's really, really built to run the football. Now, you got to be creative. You can't just come in here like you're 1980 Nebraska and think that you're going to run over people in the NFL, because it doesn't work that way. But you can mix in the short passing game with the run and then eventually suck people up and maybe use play action as opposed to trick plays to try to go over the top and hit big plays with your quarterback. So I think they're probably getting a little bit closer to finding their footing. Now, the flip side of that is other teams are also going to keep getting better. They're not going to get worse. And while you're improving, they're improving. And one of those teams that's improving are the Bengals, and that's who they play here Thursday night. So you'll have Trevor Lawrence, the number one pick from this year, going up against Joe Burrow, the number one pick from last year. And Cincinnati was terrible last year. They seem to have improved this year. And maybe that's a team that if you at least go out and play hard and you're close to, or maybe can find a way to pull out a win, then at least it means you're on track to at least hang with the team that's rebuilding just like you, or to be even a little bit better than they are at this point next year. Now, one thing that has to happen for Jacksonville is this. You cannot miss field goals and extra points. You're just not good enough to do it. You cannot do what Hollister, the tight end, did yesterday and not run through the route and sort of alligator arm a ball that gets deflected in the red zone. You are just not good enough to make those mistakes. You're not. You just aren't when you're Jacksonville. So just like we talk about, are you good enough to win games without having schematic things happen for you? Probably not, but you definitely aren't going to win games when you do some of the bad things that they did yesterday. So you got to improve that. We'll see if they come in here with another kicker or a tryout or something like that, because Josh Lambo is really, really struggling, and nothing deflates a team more than when you drive down the field and you score a touchdown and then you don't get the extra point, the gimme, or when you drive down the field and you think you have an automatic 3 and you don't get an automatic 3. So with that being said, it'll probably also limit the coaches too, because if they don't think you can hit a 49-yarder, they're not going to go for it. I mean, they're not going to put you out there. They'll probably use Cook to punt the ball before they allow you to come out there and give the other team field position at their own 40-yard line. So you got to watch out for all of those things if you're the Jaguars and hope that they're improved. So all is not lost on the Jaguars, even though they did lose the game yesterday. There's some positives, and so we're not going to be Debbie Downer today. We're going to sit here and talk about some of the positives and sort of extract those things to see if we have something to build on. So we got a short week now, so you don't have a lot of time to get your betting action together. So you make sure you go to the new Locked On Bets podcast hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. to get all of your daily picks, blowout specials, wrong team favorite picks, and Lee Sterling's lock of the day in case you want to make some money. So follow the Locked On Bets podcast brought to you by betonline.ag, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe too, because we're free on all platforms. You ain't gonna have a bunch of money coming out of your account listening to Locked On, because that's not what we do. And we thank you again for being your first listen. Your second listen of the day should be the Locked On Bets podcast. Your first listen, of course, is the Locked On Jaguars podcast. I know some people are traveling up to Cincinnati. This is one of the games that was on the schedule for a lot of people to go to. So we're going to, in advance, wish you guys safe travels, and hope you guys can root and cheer the team on to get a victory up in Cincinnati. Until then, you guys continue to take care of each other. Like I say all the time, this is your man, Tony Wiggins, and we thank you again for allowing us to be your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network and here on Locked On Jaguars, where once again, we're free on all platforms. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place.